Sometimes the loudest applause begins in silence. And sometimes, the most unforgettable performances come from those the world never expected to shine. At an elite dance academy where perfection was praised, and appearances whispered about, a young girl stepped into the studio shadows. She wasn't dressed in designer leotards. She didn't have a famous last name. All she had was rhythm in her bones and a mother scrubbing floors nearby. They laughed when they called her to dance, not out of kindness but cruelty. What they didn't know. That moment was the start of something none of them would ever forget. This is the story of Luna Martinez, and how one girl turned humiliation into standing ovation. At the Riverside Classical Dance Academy, the mirrors didn't just reflect movement, they echoed hierarchy. Beneath chandeliers and gilded ceilings, daughters of diplomats and CEOs twirled with flawless form. But in the far corner of the studio, where the light dimmed and polish faded, sat Luna Martinez, 12 years old, thick curls pinned back unevenly, her ballet shoes secondhand, too tight at the toes. Her mother, Rosa, was the cleaning lady. She mopped these floors each morning before the elite girls arrived, scrubbing away their scuff marks without ever being seen. Luna never complained about waiting in the hallway during classes. She watched. She listened. Her fingers tapped choreography into her knees. Dance lived in her quietly. The girls noticed her, but not for the reasons she wished. "Does your mom let you try on our costumes after hours?" one sneered once. Luna didn't respond. She just smiled, faintly, as if tucking the insult into a pocket she'd outgrow. And then came Sophia. Tall, radiant, always first in line, her laugh sharp enough to slice through velvet. One afternoon, she waved at Luna with syrupy sweetness. "Hey Luna, want to dance with us?" The room stilled, not out of invitation but anticipation. They weren't offering her a place. They were setting a trap. And Luna stepped forward anyway. Because sometimes the greatest dancers begin not with confidence, but quiet courage. As Luna stepped onto the polished floor, the room didn't welcome her. It recoiled, as if her presence was a smudge on its perfection. Sophia and the other girls backed away, forming a tight circle along the edges of the studio. Their arms were crossed, their smirks rehearsed. One whispered loud enough for Luna to hear. "This should be good." Luna stood alone in the center. No music. No teacher. Just silence, thick with condescension. Sophia tilted her head, pretending to be gracious. "Go on then, Luna. Show us what you've got." This wasn't a test of talent, it was a performance designed for ridicule. A staged moment for the girls to confirm what they believed, that Luna, the maid's daughter, didn't belong on their floor. But Luna didn't flinch. She closed her eyes, and for a brief second, it wasn't the mocking stares she saw, it was her mother, dancing in the kitchen as she cleaned, spinning a mop like a partner in a waltz. Rosa had once dreamed of being a dancer too, before life had pulled her into survival. Luna had no music. So she let the rhythm in her memory guide her. She moved. Not with the stiff precision of the academy's trained students, but with a raw, soulful grace. Her arms told stories. Her feet whispered resistance. Her heartbeat echoed through her limbs like a silent drum. The girls didn't laugh. Not yet. They just stared, confused. Because something about Luna's presence made the room feel different. And somewhere in the shadows, the academy's head choreographer, who had returned early from lunch, stood unnoticed by the door, watching, listening, and realizing this was no joke. This was the beginning of something real. For 12 long seconds after Luna's final step, the room was frozen, not in awe, not in confusion, but in something far more dangerous, disbelief. Then Sophia laughed. Sure. Hello. A laugh not born from amusement but fear. Cute, she sneered, clapping slowly. Did your mom teach you that while scrubbing toilets? The sting hit like a slap. But Luna didn't shrink. She simply turned and walked off the floor, quietly, with a dignity that silenced even the whispers. And that's when the voice came from the doorway. That was extraordinary. Every head turned, including Sophia's, and the blood drained from her face. It was Madame Elaine Rousseau, the Academy's head choreographer. She never attended junior rehearsals. She certainly never interrupted them. She stepped forward, eyes never leaving Luna. "Where did you train, child?" Luna hesitated. Her lips parted. Then honestly, humbly, I just dance." A pause followed. The kind of pause that shifts fates. Madame Rousseau nodded once, slowly. Then turned to the rest of the class. "I've been searching for authenticity. For emotion. For story." Her voice rang clear. "Today I found it, in the place none of you bothered to look." She faced Luna again. I'd like to see you at the advanced showcase next week. Gasps fluttered across the room like moths in the dark. Sophia stepped forward, her voice trembling with a smile too forced. But she's not even a student here. Madame Rousseau didn't blink. She is now. And with those 4 words, the hierarchy cracked. For the first time, Luna was no longer invisible. And for the first time, the girls who laughed saw her not as the maid's daughter, but as a dancer, a threat, a spark that refused to be smothered. Ask ChatGPT. In the days that followed, the academy buzzed, not with celebration but suspicion. Luna, the girl no one had noticed before, was now a name whispered in every hallway. Not with admiration, but envy wrapped in fake smiles. They called it a favor. They said Madame Rousseau had lowered her standards. And Sophia? She was more venomous than ever, her pride bruised, her control slipping. But Luna kept showing up. She came early, swept the floor before warm-ups, and waited patiently for moments no one offered, sneaking glances through cracked doors, mimicking steps in silence, dancing not with instruction but instinct. One night, long after the others had gone, Luna stood alone in Studio 4. No mirrors. No music. Just the echo of her breath and the creak of the wooden floor. She moved anyway. And as her body told stories her mouth never dared speak, stories of loneliness, of longing, of a mother humming lullabies between mop strokes, she didn't know that someone was watching. Behind the studio glass, Madame Rousseau stood in stillness. No clipboard. No critiques. Just tears. Because what Luna didn't know was this. Rousseau too had once danced barefoot in borrowed silence. And watching Luna now was like watching her own forgotten past. The next morning, a note appeared in Luna's locker, written in careful script. Dance is not about perfection. It is about truth. Keep telling yours. Yar. And for the first time, Luna smiled without fear. Not because they finally saw her, but because now she was starting to see herself. Winter brought with it the grandest event of the year, the annual Academy Gala. A night of polished marble, glittering gowns, and carefully curated performances where students danced not just for applause, but for future scholarships and elite eyes in the audience. Unsurprisingly, Luna wasn't on the guest list. She had no dress, no invitation, and no illusions. Instead, she helped her mother carry trays through the back corridor of the grand ballroom, another shadow in a sea of chandeliers. Her hair was tied back in a practical braid, her shoes plain and scuffed, her presence invisible. Or so she thought. But fate has a way of turning locked doors into open stages. When one of the performers twisted her ankle moments before her solo, panic surged. Madame Rousseau, usually calm as ice, searched the room. Sophia, seething with spotlight hunger, offered herself. But Rousseau shook her head. She pointed toward the kitchen, toward Luna. Gasps rippled. Whispers hissed. Even Luna's mother, her hands trembling on a tray, whispered, "You don't have to, baby." But Luna, she stepped forward. No silk gown. No makeup. No prepared number. Just courage stitched into every heartbeat and a memory of her mother's lullabies in the silence of mop water. As the music began, Luna moved. Not to impress. Not to prove. But to speak, in the only language no one could twist or silence. And the moment her foot brushed the polished floor, the air in the room changed. The elite sat frozen. Sophia's smirk wilted. Even the board of donors leaned forward, not with judgment but awe. She didn't dance like a student. She danced like a storm remembering how to be the sea. And when she finished, there was no applause, not at first. Only silence. The kind that comes when truth walks into a room so loud no one dares speak. Then, it erupted. Applause, standing ovation, even tears. Luna, daughter of the maid, had just stolen the night. Not because she was chosen, but because she chose herself. After the final note faded, and the ballroom lights returned to their gentle glow, Luna stood at the center of a storm she never asked to create. Her chest rose and fell, not from exhaustion but from something deeper. Liberation. Vindication. Madame Rousseau approached, eyes glistening behind her signature poise. She didn't offer a smile or a compliment, just a slow, reverent nod. It was more than words could hold. Sophia, surrounded by her friends moments ago, now stood alone by the velvet curtains. Her face bore the stunned quiet of someone who had just watched the ground shift beneath her feet. She had mocked Luna for being different. Now she was forgotten in Luna's echo. And Luna? She didn't seek her out. She didn't smirk. She didn't need to. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer. Later that night, Luna found her mother waiting behind the staff corridor, eyes wide with both worry and awe. "I didn't know you," You had that in you, she whispered. Luna smiled softly. I didn't either. Until tonight. The gala ended, but something far greater had begun. By morning the academy had changed. Her name, once muttered in passing, now filled every hallway. Not as a whisper of pity but as a name of respect. A scholarship offer arrived within days. A real one. Not because someone pitted her story but because they believed in her gift. And yet Luna never walked differently. She still wore simple shoes. She still helped her mother on weekends. But now when she danced, the world leaned in. She had rewritten what it meant to belong. Not by begging for a seat at their table, but by building her own stage. One step, one pirouette, one quiet defiance at a time. Sometimes life doesn't ask for permission to bloom. It simply finds the smallest crack in the pavement, and rises. Luna Martinez didn't come from prestige or privilege. She came from resilience, from rhythm, from rooms where no one thought to look. And when they laughed at her, when they dared to make her the joke, she answered not with bitterness, but with brilliance. In a world quick to judge by appearances, Luna reminded us of something timeless. Grace isn't about where you come from, it's about how you rise when no one's watching. So the next time someone underestimates you, smiles with condescension, or calls your presence a mistake, smile. Let them laugh. And then, let your truth take the stage. Because just like Luna, your moment may begin as a whisper, but it could end with the world standing still. This is such an amazing story. Dear friends, if you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There is still a lot of interesting things to come.